Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Congregation Beit Tikva for a beautiful Shabbat evening service. We're happy to have you. Hope you have a prayer book at home. If not, just read along and sing along with us. Welcome to our Cantor, Elisheva Herrera, to Alma and Dankoff for their beautiful music. So we begin this evening for Shabbat with Yedid Nefesh, My Heart's Delight. The words are in the middle of page 128.
Yedid Nefesh Rachaman, Yedid Nefesh Rachaman, Meshocham Lecha, Eretz Lecha, Meshocham Lecha, Yalalai, Eretz
Let's continue singing together. The words are Gesher Tsar Ma'od in your Sidurim, page 643.
I expect everyone to dance at home also. Kol haolam kulo, Gesher Tsar Me'od, Gesher Tsar Me'od, Gesher Tsar Me'od. Kol haolam kulo, Gesher Tsar Me'od, Gesher Tsar Me'od. Repeat. Kol haolam kulo, Gesher Tsar Me'od, Gesher Tsar Me'od, Gesher Tsar Me'od. Kol haolam kulo, Gesher Tsar Me'od, Gesher Tsar Me'od.
Everybody should be awake
Yes.
in the Shabbos spirit at this point. Let's turn to 121 in the middle of the page. We'll read together, and then our cantor will sing the bracha for the kindling of the Shabbat lights. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, Help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We're reading together. Please turn to page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. Let's turn to the Psalms, as we do every Shabbat evening. We welcome the Sabbath bride with Psalm 95. There are 6 special Psalms that we read or chant every Friday evening.
Lechu neran minna, lechu neran minna, lechu neran Adonai. Lechu neran minna, lechu neran minna, lechu neran Adonai. Maria, let's go Ishenu,
Let's read together from Psalm 96. In the English, we're on page 132, top of page 132. Sing to Adonai a new song. Sing to Adonai all the earth. Sing to Adonai, bless God's name. Proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all peoples. For Adonai is great and much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the peoples are mere idols, but Adonai made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God. Strength and splendor are in God's temple. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder. The fields and everything in them exults. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai, for God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly, and its peoples in faithfulness. So our cantor will lead us with the words of Psalm 29. We're on page 136 in the prayer book.
Mizmor leDavid, havul Adonai b'nelim, havul Adonai kavod va'oz, havul Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavul Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol וישבר אדוני אל ארזי הלבנון, ויתקדם כמו עגל. לבנון וסיריון כמו בן רמים, כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל מדבר.
So we continue with one of the most beloved and oldest of our Shabbat melodies. Actually, we don't know the melody that the Sephardi rabbis sang in the 1570s in Shabbat, but we have our own contemporary melodies. Turn to page 138. We're doing the 3 verses of Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, composed from the words of Isaac Luria Arizal and his contemporaries in northern Israel. Oops, wrong one, isn't it?
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, בני שבת וקבלה, שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם תפארת לתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי אם מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סופה פסק במשמע תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise for the last verse, bottom of page 139.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, טוב אמונה עם סגולה, בואי חלה בואי יאללה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
So we continue with the Chatzi Kaddish. Please turn to page 144 and we'll join with our cantor.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דיברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יש מרבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתרסה Vitadar, vitale, vitalal, shmei nekudesha brichbu, leila min kol milchata v'shirata, tushmechata v'nechemata, damiron me'alma, v'imeru, amen.
Please rise and be with us for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach, leolam vaed.
Let's read the first blessing together, middle of page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe,
who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, ruling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsebaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim.
The second blessing, Avat Olam, on page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We lift up our voices for the Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Let's all be seated, be comfortable. We're reading from the words of Deuteronomy. We're on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shimantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'vitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shachbecha v'kumecha v'kshartam leot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha v'uktatam al mezuzot beitecha v'visharecha Yom tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Let's read together. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them on your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Find them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. So we are on our journey to the shores of the Reed Sea, the crossing of the sea. as Miriam, Moses, and Aaron lift up their voices in triumphant exaltation, and we sing together, Mi Chamocha. The words are on page 158. Mi Chamocha. Continue with a beautiful blessing, Hashkivenu, asking God to watch over us on this Shabbat, to protect us from famine, from viruses, from pestilence, from war, from sadness. Alma and Wendy are going to offer a beautiful duet for us. The words are on page 160. Let's continue singing together Yismechu. Those who keep the Sabbath by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. We're in the middle of page 162.
I expect you people at home to get up and dance also to this piece.
Shabbat,
now to the essence of the Friday night service, the tefillah. Tefillah means prayer with a capital P. And we have 7 essential blessings in the tefillah. So if you're comfortable, please stand up and join us. We'll sing the first 2 blessings together. We begin with a verse from the Psalms. Cantor will lead us. We're on page 164.
Adonai Sabbatai tiftach ufi adi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מחלקל חיים בחסד, בחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמרת להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
Let's read together on the top of page 171. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze, that the bush burns unconsumed.
And we, clay touched by God,
will reach out for holiness
and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Amen.
Let's all be seated, be comfortable, and we'll turn to the words of the Ritzei, asking God to ultimately bring us back into the glorious presence of the land of Zion, the land of Israel. So together in English on 175. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, sholcha levatecha v'yirah na'avod. Turn the page, we're together on 177. Reading together top of page 177. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lehodot. So with our cantor, we're going to lift up our voices. We're singing Shalom Rav. You'll find it on page 178. I think almost everyone knows it by heart. the words of peace, bring completeness and wholeness into our lives on this Sabbath. Page 178.
Shalom Rav al Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Shalom Rav al Israel Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Let's take a few moments for our own personal prayers. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי וגואלי. So before we talk about the Torah portion for the Shabbat, let's think of our loved ones, our friends, our family, people we're thinking about, all of our community, and offer a special blessing, ask God to watch over us and give us a little hashgacha, a little extra strength and providence on the Sabbath day. The prayer for healing is on page 371, the Mishaberach. Before we sing together with Cantor and everyone, let's think of our own friends and congregants at this time. So we're thinking of on the Shabbat, Lynn Kelly, Doreen Hertig, Flo Vinnick, Arlene Vinnick, Bonnie Cantor. Other congregants of loved ones, please.
We are thinking of Rabbi Martin Levy, and as he recovers from his pending operation.
And Mark Sanders.
And our dear friend Mark Sanders as well. So gather them all into your thoughts at this time and let's sing together. The words are on page 371, in the middle of page 371. So we are in a momentous place in the Torah. In the middle of Exodus, the chapters have the title Mishpatim, which means laws or ordinances. But it's a very complicated and very powerful, spiritually powerful story. First of all, remember last week we were at Sinai. We received the Ten Commandments. And we, so to speak, had that peak experience over 3,000 years ago where hundreds of thousands of Israelites were standing at the foot of the mountain waiting to hear the voice of Adonai. And now, this week, we come to the ordinary down-to-earth nitty-gritty of running a society, which is why the rabbis called these chapters, which begin in the middle of 21, 22, 23, Mishpatim. Mishpatim, literally from the word mishpat, which means an ordinance or a piece of legislation. It's a type of legislation that can be rationally understood, cognitively assembled in one's mind. You don't need great insight, you don't need to have a mystical experience. These are down-to-earth rules and regulations. How to conduct one's business, how to treat strangers, how to take care of family matters, how to have just weights and measures in one's business, how to deal with damages and accidents and so forth and so on. By the way, in tradition or in Jewish learning, there are three different words for a law. Mishpat, which means that which is rationally discernible and absorbable or understandable. Then there's the word edut, which means a more serious or a more complicated law, which we need God's help in order to understand. And the third term for law is chok, spelled chet kuf, chok. I guess in English it would be something like C-H-O-K. Chok is, so to speak, an irrational law. In other words, you and I could spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. Chok Chukim means the laws that God has given us, which we have to accept because they come from the divine, but we cannot necessarily figure them out for ourselves, no matter how intelligent, how smart we may think we really are. So I'm going to talk for a few moments about mishpatim, the down-to-earth rules. So when you think about the comparison between last Shabbat and this Shabbat, last week we were on a spiritual high. We were up there on the mountain. People go to mountains to have emotional experiences. Spirituality is sometimes imagined as that which is involving a totally powerful or jolting transformation, a sense of understanding suddenly God's presence in a completely different setting. Just think about all the Americans who went to India in the late 60s and 70s. Rabbi Zalman Schachter, of blessed memory, once said, yes, we are very spiritual people. We look for insight in India. Why not go to Jerusalem? That's where the highest level we may find. But you remember what it was like in the 70s. Even I remember that. Muktananda, Maharishi, so many different gurus, most of whom fell from their high places and descended to a very low place, unfortunately. But we Jews began to understand in the late 70s that we could find a spiritual high within Judaism. We didn't have to go to the other side of the world. We didn't have to read other texts. We could start to begin to study Kabbalah, which is the mystical literature of Jewish thought. We've had plenty of high-level experiences, right? Moses at the burning bush, Miriam and Moses crossing the sea, the people at the foot of Sinai, and the people again at the mountain carving out an Egel HaZahav, a golden calf. I mean, we've been through some very high moments, mystical moments, but the truth is, if we're only concentrated on the highs, we fall into a pattern of what I call hedonism, spiritual hedonism. It's a kind of compulsive longing for a rush, for that rush that some people think they get from drugs. Periodic highs, periodic peaks are essential, but they need to be renewed and reinvigorated every day of our lives. We can't live on that precipice. We can't live up there all the time. We would crash. We would die, literally. In order to sustain our families, our communities, we need a religious orientation that allows for security, allows for education, allows for spiritual disciplines, for daily prayer. Life begins after the revelation. After the revelatory moment passes, that's when we get to deal with the real nitty-gritty of life. That's what this Torah portion is all about. This Torah portion says spirituality is important, but we cannot look at God simply and hope for some peak experience once a year. What we need to do in order to be more godly is to labor to make our ordinary lives more compassionate, more just, more understandable. And that's why this Torah portion is filled with dozens of mitzvot concerning marriage, concerning employment, concerning what do we do when we find lost property, what do we do when we're in a financial bind, when somebody steals from us or rips us off, what do we do in the mundane details of trying to take care of strangers or orphans. Ideology, without action becomes anemic. Action without conviction becomes mechanistic. If we just do things over and over and over again because somebody said you got to do this, not only is it mechanistic, I would say sometimes it becomes insincere. The balance is in this Torah portion. There's a balance between creed and deed. And I remember one of my early teachers in rabbinic school said, we can have all the creeds we like, but what really matters is what we do with our deeds. How do we live day by day? And that's what the Torah portion is really telling us. This is the way we have to live in order to be decent, good human beings. We have to transfer or transform that original peak experience, that original flame, that original fire, and turn it into that which we can use day after day, to sustain ourselves, to make us stronger, to make us real human beings. And with that flame, we illumine our life's journey. We invigorate ourselves and our tradition and our God. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi. Very nice.
So, our president is here, Elisheva Herrera. Any messages for this coming week? Well, our president will be actually traveling to visit her dad. So we will wish her a Nisiat Tova, a very safe and healthy journey. We'll be on Zoom tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning at 9:30 for Torah study. And even though we are still recording services, hopefully sometime later in February, we will all get back together in the building and be praying in person right here in the sanctuary. Also, our new newsletter should be online within the next 24 hours, and you'll be receiving a hard copy in the coming days. Any other news? Okay. Let's go to our closing prayers, which we begin with the Yaleinu, page 586. We lift up our voices with our cantor in the middle of page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה לעוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו גילויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו חולים, ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please remain standing with us as we come to the Kaddish prayer. We're on page 595, and towards the bottom of 595 is a beautiful poem that was written by Hannah Senish during World War II. There are stars up above, as so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved, their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest nights, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. On this Shabbat, we remember with love and devotion our family from congregation Beit Tikva. During this period of Shloshim, we recall our dear congregant Judith Kingsley Fitting, who passed away during this past week. May her memory always be a blessing to her friends and to her family.
Amen.
And on their yahrzeit memorial with love and devotion, we now recall Esther Bickel, the mother-in-law of Sheila Bickel, mother of Norton, Richard Finch, son of Julianne Sherman, William J. Ginsburg, father of Linda Cohen, Evelyn Igdaloff, cousin of Robert Sherman, Samuel Mandel, father of Eileen Mandel, and Bessie Waterman, grandmother of Barb Lamont. Please join us for the Kaddish. The words are on page 598.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ברמה דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. עושה שלמה רבה בן שמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. The Kiddush can be found on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lama'aseh bereishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר וציון מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. Shabbat shalom, l'chaim tovim.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, everyone, for